Hey y'all, it's been a hot minute since the last time I made a video, and I just want to say to those of you that have reached out to me and said that the videos that I have made, it's been like what, two, have really blessed you or have helped you in some way. I just want to say thank you, because that's just encouragement for me, and that is really helping me in my faith, and it really encourages me to continue what I'm doing. And so special thanks to y'all. So today, my message is get yourself together, basically. So I really feel like God has been saying that cycles are being repeated that don't necessarily need to be repeated. And excuse me, I have my notes here so I don't forget anything. So I really want to encourage you to get yourself together, not just for you, but for everybody after you in your family. Everything that comes after you, get yourself together for that if you don't do it for yourself alone. Because generational curses are real, y'all. Like, we out here playing and they real. And I think one reason why we are out here getting whooped is because we really don't even acknowledge the significance in generational curses, and we don't talk about them anymore generationally. I believe that's something that's a conversation that has kind of died down. And I think with the dynamics of our families, we don't really sit down with our grandparents like we used to. If anything, we have a lot of grandparents that are stepping into the role of parents, and so they aren't really able to fill the grandparent role, I feel, because they are trying to raise the child. And so I think there's also division that's happening in families, which is also causing that breakdown in communication, and so things aren't being passed down like they used to. And so I think that it's very important for us, wherever you are, however old you are, it's important for you to reach back and to talk to your grandparents, to talk to your parents, and figure out, where do I come from? Who am I? Because if you don't know who you are, it's very difficult to continue walking, I feel. And when I realized this, I just started having more real conversations with my grandparents and asking them questions. And it's so dope, like, to see where you come from, or to even hear, like, dang, that happened, or man, I noticed that in myself, or to be like, man, that happened, like, in a bad way, but also to just be aware, because those things start to repeat themselves, and it may not be in your lifetime, but you may see that in your family, you may not. Okay. You may have heard this before, but hurt people, and broken people break people. So, in essence, hurt people raise hurt people, and broken people raise broken people. And so I just want to tell you, if you are dealing with any type of pain, if you are dealing with any type of hurt, any unforgiveness, any struggle in your life, and you have not closed that, you have not really sat down with God and just asked for forgiveness, or you've asked God to help you through that situation, more than likely you are loving with that. More than likely you are raising your children with that. More than likely you are, that is on the forefront, whether you want it to or not. So it's not written on your forehead, obviously, but in the way that you carry yourself, in the way that you interact with in different relationships, that is showing. And they may not know the root, and you may not even realize the root yourself, but the truth is, if you have not closed that, then that means that is a wound that is still open. And one thing that I think that parents don't realize is that when you are struggling through something, or when something has happened to you, your children are not supposed to be closed off from that. That is something that we need to know, because if we don't, 9 times out of 10 we deal with the same thing you do, but we don't know how to push through that. We don't know how to love through that. Instead, we suppress, we run away from, or we just don't deal with it at all, or we do deal with it in the wrong way. And that's because we saw that model to us as well. We didn't see someone talk to us about how to persevere through that situation. And we look at our parents and we say, yes, y'all are strong, we want to be like y'all, but we also need y'all to be real too, because if something happened to you, if I'm faced with that or my friend is faced with that, then I'm more equipped to help them if you talk to me through that situation. And I'm not gonna run. And um, ideally, if I'm saying this is a cycle, so if my parents did not talk to me about this, and then I'm dealing with this, then I'm gonna raise my children, and they're gonna probably go through the same thing as well. And so we just have to be equipped. But more than anything, we have to be vulnerable and let down our pride to let God come in and heal that thing. And so this is really an encouragement to you to get yourself together for yourself, for your children, for your children's children, and their children as well. And so the approach that I'm taking is slightly, I don't know, just bear with me. So a few weeks ago, my pastor talked about when Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, and that can be found in John chapter 11. And I felt like he took a different approach, and so I'm kind of going to use that a little bit in today, and I think it'll make sense at the end. So just bear with me. In John 11, verse 32, well, just to backtrack, Lazarus has died at this point, and Jesus was not there. And so basically all his homeboys told him like, hey yo, Lazarus ain't good, blah blah blah. So he goes, and he gets there, and his sisters, Mary and Martha, are just hurt. They just lost their brother, and they buried their brother. And Martha had already come out, and she was talking to Jesus. She met him when he got there. Mary didn't come out, and so she comes out later, and she says, she falls at his feet, and she's weeping to Jesus, and she says, like, God, Jesus, if you had been here sooner, my brother would not be dead. And so in that, I feel like there was power, because she recognized the power of Jesus, and her faith was in Jesus, in the sense that she knew who could have healed. She knew who could have fixed the problem. And Jesus turns around and says in verse 34, where have you put him? And so in verse 33, it says, Jesus kind of low-key got mad. Like, he was very troubled in his spirit when she says, Jesus, had you been here, like, my brother would still be alive. And in verse 34, he says, where have you laid him? And I believe Jesus was saying, take me to where you laid him. But one thing that my pastor kind of tied that into is, take me to where you laid your faith. Because while it sounds like your faith is in me, it's not. Because your faith is over here, where you thought I should have been, and I wasn't. And so now you feel like, oh, I let you down. And many times we do Jesus like that. We do God like that, and we say, oh, well, you didn't come through, so I can't trust you. And so I'm not going to. And then that situation is just buried in our hearts, and we really don't ever talk through that. We don't ever work through that. We just kind of like stamp it there, and we leave it. And so Jesus goes to the tomb, and by this point Lazarus had been dead for a few days. And so Jesus is saying, like, remove the stone, and everybody's like, whoa, wait a minute, dude been dead for a couple days, so the smell's a little bad. I know you probably you miss your boy and everything, but like, he's gone. And so moving forward, Jesus, they move the stone, and Jesus tells Lazarus to come out. And I'm going to read that exactly how he says it. In verse 43, John chapter 11, verse 43, he says, Lazarus, come out. And there's an exclamation mark there. So, we all know English, and exclamation marks mean that it was either excitement or it was a yell. It was powerful. It wasn't just a statement. And so I just see power there in God, in Jesus saying, Lazarus, come out of the tomb. And reading further down, he says, take off the grave clothes and let him go. And wow, like I'm getting chills because I just think about our situations, and I think if we were to go to Jesus and we were to say, Lord, I'm still struggling in this. You know, this hurt me back here, and I'm seeing that this is rising up in my child, or this is rising up in my relationships, or it's rising up when I'm trying to be happy. And Lord, I want you to heal it. I believe that he will literally say, come out. And it's out. It's done. So if you're wanting to take the grave clothes off, if you're wanting to be free, if you're wanting to be let go, then you need to go back and you need to say, Jesus, this is where I laid my faith. This is where I laid my hurt. This is where I'm stuck at. This is why I can't move forward. And so I'm asking that you would heal me, Lord God. I'm asking that you would remove the stone, that you would take out the dead thing, and then I will be stripped and I will be healed. And again, I think it goes back to pride, because many of us get stuck there, and we just want to deal with it on our own. All my independent ladies out there, we're real quick to just be like, I got it, you know. And sometimes we take that too far in being independent, and I think we miss a lot of our blessings because of that. And it's not just women, it's men as well. And you can't be independent and serve Jesus, like, because you're supposed to put yourself in him, and you should be led by him, and he will take care of it when you lay down yourself and you decrease in yourself so that he may increase. And as I'm kind of coming to a close, I just wanted to be a little transparent. I just want to kind of give you a practical example of this, of what I'm talking about, getting yourself together. So in my family, there's a history of division. There's a history of broken relationships. There's a history of fallen men. And my maternal side does not look the same as my maternal side. And so one thing that, you know, they may have been struggling with on this side of my family, they may not have struggled with on the other side. And it's important for me to be aware of both, because going from, or speaking from the idea of division, many of the women in my family are not married, and either they were and they are divorced, or they never got married. And so we have a lot of single parents on that side of my family. And you know, I don't feel that it's necessarily something wrong with them. I think that is a curse that has been put on my family, a struggle that someone down the line dealt with and did not fully take care of it, and so it keeps trickling down. But God has given us the power to break those curses. And so at one point I operated in a spirit of like independence, and I was just in this, like, even in my relationships, like I was just very headstrong, very stubborn. And my idea of it was, I'm not going to be hurt, I'm not going to be taken advantage of, I'm not going to need somebody because I got it. And along with that, I also didn't know how to properly love, because I didn't feel like I saw that a man and a woman properly love in my family. And I have a few examples, but I have more non-examples than examples, just being honest. And so when I got engaged, before I got engaged, that was a huge fear. And right after the proposal, it was like, dang, that hit me. Like, I don't know how to be a wife. Like, what I'm gonna do? Like, who I'm gonna look at, you know? And so I began to focus on what I lacked, and I began to try and figure out how to fill that void myself. How should I be? What should I look like? And the minute that I laid that down and I said, Lord, I am independent. I had come out of that by that point, but I can be very stubborn. I can be headstrong, and I'm afraid of walking in marriage because I don't know what that looks like. And I'm looking here, and I'm trying to pull from all these different places, and I'm not getting what I need. And God told me, you know, it's because you didn't put it in me. Like, you never came to me for healing. You just came to me saying, I gotta be this, and you vented to me. You didn't ask me to help you. And so when I did, I realized that everything I didn't want to be, I didn't have to be. I just chose to be what I wanted to be. And so in this walk of being engaged, I'm learning what it means to be a wife as I go. And it's not something that I'm afraid of. And it's not something that I feel like, oh, I'm lacking in this area. I feel like I'm growing and I'm learning from God and through experiences. And I'm not looking at what I don't have. I'm looking at Him, and I'm looking at what I want to be in Him and who He's calling me to be. And, you know, I also noticed that in my family, you know, men, they have fallen off. Many of them have died. Many of them just didn't, you know, fully reach what they wanted to reach, or they're struggling with certain things. And I wouldn't say just one specific thing. I would say multiple things. And there are more women in my family than men on that side. And so that just showed me, like, no, I'm not a man, so I myself am not dealing with that. But one day I'm going to bring a seed into this world. And so God told me to pray over the future seed that I'm going to have. And I can't pray over them effectively if I don't know what they're going to be struggling with. And so I pray over those things, and still over the men that are still in my family, that are still living. I pray that those things will be broken over their lives as well. But again, we cannot prosper, we cannot move forward if we don't even know what our battle is. Like, we don't even know what it is that we need to be shielded from. And more importantly, we can't move on if we don't seek God for healing. And so I think that some people get stuck in the pride part, but you need to ask yourself, how can I get myself together? What is it that, where did I lay down that hurt? Or what is it that I laid down that's holding me? And I still have this string attached. And take God to that place. Ask Him for healing. And recognize that this is bigger than you. That this affects everybody after you. And so it is so important that you get yourself together. And this is for men and for women. Because if you have a seed or child, or you're going to bear one day, you don't want them carrying your hurt. I don't think any parent wants that. And I don't think that any parent really tries to, in their right mind, I don't think they really are trying to hurt their child. But when you are not fully equipped, when you are not spiritually cleansed, that is what you are doing. You're hurting yourself and you're hurting your child. And we shouldn't be seeking any other coping mechanisms, because God is who we should be seeking for that. And so I just want to encourage you to, like I said, get yourself together. And I will be praying for y'all. I pray that you guys have an awesome rest of your Saturday. Have an awesome week. And thank you for listening.